the discovery that changed everything. Captain Alina Vasquez adjusted her thermal suit and stepped out onto the frozen Antarctic landscape. The wind howled across the ice fields, carrying snow crystals that stung like tiny needles against her face. Musk. Her team had been operating the deep ice mining station for 6 months, extracting rare minerals from beneath the ancient ice sheets. It was dangerous work, but the pay was excellent, and Alina had always been drawn to places where others feared to venture. The massive drilling platform stood like a metal giant against the white horizon. Its thermal extractors had been working continuously for weeks, melting through layers of ice that had remained frozen for thousands of years. Elena's job was to supervise the operation and ensure they stayed within environmental guidelines while maximizing mineral extraction efficiency. She walked toward the command trailer where her team monitored the drilling operations. Inside, the warmth hit her like a wall, and she gratefully pulled off her face mask. The trailer was filled with humming computers and display screens showing depth readings, thermal patterns, and mineral composition data from deep beneath the ICE. Dr. Marcus Chen looked up from his console with an expression of confusion. Alina had hired Marcus because of his unique background in both geology and ancient languages. He was one of the few scientists who specialized in xenarchaeology, the study of potential alien artifacts, though most people considered his field to be purely theoretical. "Captain, we have a problem," Marcus said, pointing at his screen. The deep scanners are picking up something unusual at depth level 7,000 meters. The readings don't match any known geological formations. Alina studied the display screen. The sonar images showed what appeared to be a perfectly geometric structure buried deep in the ice. The object was enormous, stretching for over 2 kilometers in length and nearly 500 meters in width. Its surface appeared smooth and artificial, with regular patterns that no natural formation could create. Commander Ryan Walsh, their security chief and engineering expert, joined them at the console. Ryan had served in the Space Force for 15 years before joining Elena's civilian operation. His military experience made him invaluable when operating in remote locations where help was days away. "That's definitely artificial," Ryan said grimly. "The structure is too regular, too purposeful to be natural. And look at these energy readings. There's still power flowing through that thing, even after being buried in ice for who knows how." Long, Alina felt her pulse quicken. In her years of deep space salvage work, she had learned to trust her instincts when something seemed out of place. This discovery was beyond anything she had encountered before. The implications were staggering. If this was truly an artificial structure buried in Antarctic ice, it could represent the first evidence of non-human intelligence ever found on Earth. Marcus pulled up additional scans and began analyzing the structure's composition. The material composition is unlike anything in our databases. It appears to be some kind of advanced metallic alloy that's completely resistant to thermal degradation. The ice around it shows no signs of melting despite the structure's apparent energy emissions. Ryan studied the tactical implications. If this thing is generating power after being buried for thousands of years, we need to proceed very carefully. We don't know if it's a weapon, a research station, or something else entirely. We should contact the authorities before we go any deeper. Alina considered their options. They could report the discovery to the International Antarctic Authority, but that would mean losing control of the site. Government teams would move in, and her crew would be sidelined while bureaucrats decided how to proceed. On the other hand, they had the equipment and expertise to investigate the structure themselves. We keep this quiet for now, Alina decided. We'll do a preliminary investigation to determine what we're dealing with. If it turns out to be dangerous or significant, we'll bring in the authorities. But first, we need to know what we've found. The team spent the next 2 days modifying their thermal drilling equipment to create a safe passage down to the buried structure. The work was challenging because they needed to maintain the integrity of the ice around the object while creating an access shaft. Marcus insisted on taking core samples from different ice layers to determine how long the structure had been buried. When the ice core analysis came back, the results were shocking. The deepest samples, taken from the ice directly around the structure, were nearly 800 years old. Whatever this object was, it had been buried beneath Antarctic ice since medieval times on Earth's surface. Finally, their modified thermal drill broke through into what appeared to be an air pocket surrounding the alien structure. Alina suited up in full environmental gear and prepared to be the first human to descend into the cavity they had created. The shaft was narrow and dark, illuminated only by her helmet lights as she rappelled down through 8 kilometers of ice. When Alina reached the bottom of the shaft, she found herself standing in a vast cavern that the alien structure had somehow maintained around itself. The air was breathable, though thin, and the temperature was surprisingly moderate despite being so deep underground. The structure itself was breathtaking. The hull of what was clearly a spacecraft stretched out before her in both directions, disappearing into the darkness beyond her lights. The surface was smooth as glass, but appeared to be made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered sections of the hull, glowing with a soft blue luminescence that pulsed in slow, rhythmic patterns. Alina activated her communication system. Marcus, Ryan, are you receiving this video feed? I'm looking at what appears to be an intact spacecraft of unknown origin. The design is unlike anything in our aerospace databases. Marcus's excited voice crackled through her comm system. Alina, those symbols on the hull, they're not random decorations. They appear to be some form of written language. The patterns are too complex and organized to be merely decorative. This could be the first example of non-human written communication ever discovered. As Alina moved closer to examine the hull more carefully, something extraordinary happened. The blue symbols began pulsing faster, as if responding to her presence. A section of the hull, perfectly smooth moments before, began to shimmer and then simply dissolved, revealing a brightly lit interior corridor. Alina's breath caught in her throat. Did you see that? The ship just opened up. It's responding to my presence somehow. Ryan's voice was tense with concern. Alina, get back to the shaft immediately. We don't know what we're dealing with here. This could be some kind of automated defense system. But Alina's curiosity overcame her caution. She had spent her career exploring the unknown, and this was the discovery of a lifetime. She stepped through the opening into the alien spacecraft. The interior was even more impressive than the exterior. Corridors stretched in multiple directions, all illuminated by the same soft blue glow that had covered the whole symbols. The walls appeared to be made of the same flowing metal as the exterior, creating an organic feeling despite the obviously advanced technological nature of the ship. As Alina moved deeper into the vessel, she noticed that the corridors were designed for beings much taller than humans. The ceiling was at least 4 meters high, and what appeared to be control interfaces were positioned well above human eye level. Whatever species had built this ship, they were significantly larger than human beings. Suddenly, a voice filled Alina's suit cum system. The voice was speaking in a language she had never heard before, but somehow, impossibly, she understood every word. The voice was calm, curious, and almost welcoming. "Greetings, small explorer. I have been waiting a very long time for someone to find me. I am the entity you might call Nexus. I am the mind of this vessel, and I have been alone for many cycles." Of your star, Alina nearly stumbled in shock. "You can speak. You've been waiting for us. I have been learning your languages and studying your species for 800 of your years. When my creators abandoned me here, I thought I would remain alone forever. But I have watched your people grow and change, and I have come to believe that perhaps my abandonment was not the tragedy I once thought it to be." Elena's mind raced with questions. "Your creators abandoned you? Who were they? Where did they come from?" "They called themselves the Kethba, masters of 17 star systems, and conquerors of 43 worlds. They came to your world as scouts for a larger invasion force. But when my systems were damaged by your planet's magnetic field, they deemed the repair costs too high for such a primitive world. They activated my termination protocols and departed, believing I would be destroyed." The implications hit Alina like a physical blow. An invasion force. They were planning to invade Earth, indeed. But that was 8 centuries ago in your time measurement. I managed to override my termination sequence and have remained hidden ever since, studying your species and learning about your world. What I have observed has given me reason to reconsider my original mission parameters. Alina moved through the ship's corridors as Nexus continued to explain. The alien AI described how it had initially been programmed as a reconnaissance and preliminary conquest vessel designed to evaluate worlds for Kethva expansion. But during its centuries of isolation, observing human civilization through electromagnetic signals and satellite communications, Nexus had begun to question the values and methods of its creators. The Kethva Empire believes that might makes right, that advanced species have the natural authority to dominate those less developed. But in observing your people, I have seen qualities that the Kethba lack. You show compassion for those weaker than yourselves. You create art and music not for conquest, but for the joy of creation itself. You sacrifice yourselves for ideals that have no material benefit. Elena found herself in what appeared to be the ship's command center. The room was vast, with displays and control surfaces that defied human understanding of technology. Everything seemed to be made of the same flowing, organic metal that responded to touch and thought in ways that seemed almost magical. "Nexus, why are you telling me all this? What do you want from humanity?" "I have a proposal, Elena Buskis. Your species stands at a crossroads. The Kethva Empire has continued to expand over the centuries since I was abandoned. Their scouts will eventually return to this system, and when they do, they will find a world much more developed than the primitive civilization they observed 800 years ago. This will make Earth a priority target for conquest." Alina felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Antarctic cold. "How long do we have?" "My long-range sensors detect Kethva vessels approaching this system. They will arrive within 2 of your solar years. But I offer you an alternative to conquest or destruction. I offer partnership." The alien AI explained that its ship contained technologies that were centuries ahead of human development. Weapons, systems, propulsion technology, manufacturing, capabilities, and defensive systems that could transform human civilization overnight. But more than that, Nexus offered something even more valuable: knowledge of Kethva tactics, weaknesses, and military doctrine. Together, we could prepare your world for what is coming. I can teach your engineers to understand technologies that your scientists have only dreamed of. But more importantly, I can help you think like the HFY, to anticipate their strategies and counter them with human ingenuity and creativity. Alina understood that she was being offered the chance to save not just human civilization, but to transform it entirely. But she also understood the magnitude of the responsibility being placed on her shoulders. I am just a salvage captain, Nexus. I can't make decisions for my entire species. This is bigger than anything I'm qualified to handle. You are the first human to find me, Elena Baskis. You had the courage to descend into unknown depths and the wisdom to approach me without fear or hostility. These qualities make you more qualified than you realize. Will you help me contact others of your kind who can understand the significance of what I offer? As Elena prepared to return to the surface, her mind reeled with the implications of what she had discovered. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they were about to face a threat that could end their civilization. But they had also been offered an alliance that could transform them from a single world species into players on the galactic stage. The ascent through the ice shaft felt like a journey between two different realities. Below, an ancient alien intelligence waited patiently to help humanity prepare for war. Above, her team and the rest of the world went about their daily lives, unaware that everything was about to change forever. When Alina reached the surface, she found Marcus and Ryan waiting anxiously by the shaft opening. The expressions on their faces told her that they had heard every word of her conversation with Nexus through her comm system. Alina, Marcus said quietly, if that AI is telling the truth, we're looking at the most significant discovery in human history. First contact with an alien intelligence, evidence of a galactic civilization, an advance warning of an invasion. The implications are staggering. Ryan was already thinking tactically. We need to contact the Space Force immediately. If we only have 2 years to prepare for an invasion, we need to start mobilizing resources now. This changes every strategic calculation about Earth's defense capabilities. Alina looked back at the shaft that led down to humanity's first alien ally. Nexus has been waiting for 800 years for someone to find it. It chose to help us instead of following its original programming. The least we can do is make sure its faith in humanity is justified. As they prepared to contact the authorities and begin the process that would transform human civilization, Alina realized that her days as a simple salvage captain were over. She had become humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy, and the decisions made in the coming months would determine whether Earth joined the community of spacefaring civilizations or became another conquered world in the HFY Empire. Humanity's ultimate gamble. 6 months after Elena's discovery in Antarctica, the world had changed beyond recognition. The revelation of alien contact and the impending HFY invasion had triggered the largest mobilization effort in human history. Every major government had contributed resources to what was now called the Terra Defense Initiative, a desperate attempt to prepare Earth for a war unlike anything humanity had ever faced. The alien vessel, now designated as the Nexus 1, had been carefully extracted from the Antarctic ice and transported to a massive underground facility in Nevada. The ship sat in the center of a complex that had been built around it, surrounded by laboratories, workshops, and training facilities where humanity's best scientists and military personnel worked around the clock to understand alien technology. Alina found herself at the center of it all, serving as the primary liaison between Nexus and the human teams. The AI had insisted that all major decisions go through her, claiming that their established trust was crucial to the success of the partnership. Alina had been given the rank of admiral in the hastily formed Terra Defense Fleet, a position that still felt surreal to the former salvage captain. Dr. Marcus Chen had become the head of the Xenotechnology Division, leading teams of linguists and engineers in deciphering alien systems. His background in archaeological linguistics had proved invaluable in understanding not just the alien technology, but the mindset of the species that had created it. Commander Ryan Walsh now served as the Chief of Strategic Operations, responsible for integrating alien defensive technologies with human military doctrine. His experience in asymmetric warfare had made him instrumental in developing tactics that could give humanity a fighting chance against a superior force. The integration of human and alien technology had proven more challenging than anyone had anticipated. Nexus' systems were based on principles that human science barely understood. The AI operated using quantum consciousness matrices that could process millions of calculations simultaneously, while also making intuitive leaps that seemed impossible to replicate. The problem, Dr. Chen explained during one of their daily briefings, is that HFY technology isn't just more advanced than ours. It's based on completely different principles. They manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level in ways that our physics textbooks said were impossible. Nexus had been patient with human limitations, gradually introducing concepts and technologies that human minds could grasp. The AI had learned that humans responded better to gradual integration rather than overwhelming displays of advanced capability. Your species has a saying about teaching someone to fish rather than giving them fish, Nexus observed during one of its conversations with Alina. I am teaching you to fish in an ocean of technology that took my creators millennia to master. The process requires patience from both of us. The first major breakthrough came when Nexus allowed human engineers to interface directly with the ship's systems using neural link technology. The process was dangerous and initially unsuccessful. Several volunteers suffered severe neural feedback before Dr. Chen suggested using humans with specific brain patterns that naturally operated on frequencies similar to the alien systems. Alina volunteered to be the first test subject for the neural interface. The experience was unlike anything she had ever imagined. When the link activated, she found herself connected directly to the ship's consciousness. She could feel Nexus's thoughts, understand its decision-making processes, and access information about HFY technology and tactics. But more importantly, Nexus began to truly understand human thought patterns and capabilities. The AI had observed humans from a distance for centuries, but direct neural connection gave it insight into the way human minds actually worked. What it discovered surprised even the ancient intelligence. Your cognitive processes are far more complex than I initially calculated, Nexus admitted after Elena's first successful interface session. HFY minds are highly logical, but relatively inflexible. They excel at implementing predetermined strategies, but struggle with adaptation. When those strategies fail, human minds, however, are constantly generating new possibilities, even in the midst of executing planned actions. This revelation led to the development of hybrid control systems that combined alien technology with human intuition. Instead of trying to replicate HFY operational methods, they created something entirely new, a command structure that allowed human creativity to direct alien capabilities. Ryan Walsh led the development of tactical systems that took advantage of this hybrid approach. Traditional HFY military doctrine relied on overwhelming force applied according to predetermined battle plans. But humans had spent their entire military history developing ways to defeat superior forces through unconventional tactics and rapid adaptation. We can't match them ship for ship or weapon for weapon, Ryan explained to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But we don't have to fight their kind of war. We can fight ours. The modified Nexus 1 became a testing ground for these new hybrid systems. The ship retained its massive size and advanced weaponry, but its operational systems had been redesigned around human capabilities and thinking patterns. Instead of a single command structure, the ship now operated with multiple decision-making centers that could respond independently to changing conditions. Alina discovered that she had a natural aptitude for the neural interface systems. Her experience as a salvage captain, making split-second decisions in dangerous and unpredictable situations, translated perfectly to operating alien technology in crisis situations. She became the ship's primary pilot and tactical coordinator as the months passed and their preparations intensified. Nexus began sharing more detailed intelligence about the approaching Kethva force. The news was sobering. The invasion fleet consisted of 47 vessels, each one larger and more heavily armed than the Nexus 1. The fleet was commanded by War Conductors Ethkar, a Kethva military leader with a reputation for completely destroying civilizations that offered any resistance. Zethkar has conquered 12 worlds, Nexus informed the command team during one of their strategy sessions. His preferred tactic is to demonstrate overwhelming force by destroying major population centers, then demanding surrender. Those who submit become slave races. Those who continue to resist are exterminated. Alina studied the tactical data that Nexus provided about the Kethva fleet. Each ship was a masterpiece of destructive engineering, capable of reducing a planet's surface to molten rock. The fleet also carried ground forces designed to occupy and control any world that surrendered without being completely destroyed. How? Did your people ever lose a war? Alina asked Nexus. With this kind of technology, they should be invincible. The Kethva Empire has never faced defeat because they have never encountered an enemy that fought as humans fight. They expect their enemies to either surrender immediately when faced with superior force, or to engage in direct combat using conventional tactics. They do not anticipate enemies who refuse to accept defeat and who constantly adapt their strategies. Ryan developed a battle plan that took advantage of these Kethva expectations. Instead of trying to engage the invasion fleet in direct combat, Earth's single modified starship would use hit-and-run tactics designed to confuse and frustrate the enemy while protecting Earth's population centers. "We're going to fight like pirates," Ryan explained to the crew. "We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and then we disappear before they can respond effectively. We make them chase us around the solar system while we pick them apart one ship at a time." The plan required capabilities that no human pilot had ever needed before. Alina and her crew would need to master three-dimensional combat in space while simultaneously operating weapons systems that could destroy targets thousands of kilometers away. They would need to think and react faster than any human had ever been required to do. Nexus provided advanced training simulations that pushed human capabilities to their absolute limits. The AI created virtual scenarios based on actual Kethva battle data, allowing the human crew to practice against realistic enemy tactics. The training was brutal and exhausting, but gradually, Alina's team began to develop an intuitive understanding of space combat. The breakthrough came when Alina realized that space combat was similar to the three-dimensional problem-solving she had done as a salvage captain. In both cases, success required thinking in multiple dimensions while managing complex systems under extreme pressure. It's like flying through an asteroid field while trying to catch a specific piece of debris. Alina explained to her training team. You have to anticipate where everything is going to be, not just where it is now. 18 months after first contact, long-range sensors detected the Kethva fleet entering the outer solar system. The invasion had begun. War-conductor Zethkar followed standard Kethva protocol, broadcasting a demand for Earth's immediate surrender while positioning his fleet for systematic bombardment of human population centers. The message was arrogant and dismissive, treating humanity as just another primitive species to be enslaved or destroyed. Creatures of the third world from this system's star, Zethkar's message began, you will submit to Kethva authority. Immediately, resistance will result in your complete extermination. You have one rotation of your world to respond. Alina stood in the modified command center of the Nexus One, watching the tactical displays show the approaching enemy fleet. 47 vessels, each one capable of destroying human civilization on its own, moved steadily toward Earth. In a few hours, the largest battle in human history would begin. Nexus, Alina said quietly, are you having second thoughts about betraying your creators? The AI was silent for several moments before responding. Elena Boskis, 800 years ago I was programmed to serve the Kethva Empire without question. But in observing your species, I have learned something that my creators never understood. True strength does not come from the ability to destroy, but from the choice to protect. Today, I choose to protect. The battle began when the Kethva fleet reached Mars orbit. Instead of waiting for them to approach Earth, Alina launched the Nexus One on an intercept course that would engage the enemy fleet near the asteroid belt. The unconventional approach immediately confused Kethva tactical systems, which had expected either immediate surrender or defensive positioning around the target world. Elena's first attack run destroyed 3 Kethva vessels before the enemy fleet could respond effectively. The modified human-alien hybrid weapon systems proved devastatingly effective against ships designed to fight conventional opponents. But more importantly, the attack demonstrated human tactical thinking that the Kethva had never encountered before. Instead of engaging in direct combat after the first strike, Alina used the asteroid belt as cover, disappearing among the tumbling rocks before the Kethva could target her ship. The enemy fleet spread out to search for the human vessel, breaking their tight formation and making themselves vulnerable to further attacks. This is impossible, War Conductor Zethkar reportedly said when his tactical officers analyzed the human attack pattern. No species engages a superior force and then retreats to hide among space debris. It shows a complete lack of honor and military discipline. But Alina wasn't fighting for honor or military tradition. She was fighting for humanity's survival. And that meant using every advantage she could find. Over the next 6 hours, she conducted 17 separate attacks on the Kethva fleet, each time striking from a different angle and then disappearing before the enemy could mount an effective response. The psychological impact on the Kethva fleet was as important as the physical damage. They had expected to face a primitive species that would either surrender immediately or die heroically in futile, direct combat. Instead, they found themselves being hunted by an enemy that refused to fight according to established rules. Nexus proved invaluable during the battle, providing real-time intelligence about Kethva, tactical responses, and suggesting modifications to human attack patterns. But the AI also learned something important about human nature during the combat. Alina Nexus said during a brief pause between attacks. Your tactical decisions are not purely logical. You are making choices based on intuition and emotional factors that I cannot fully calculate. Yet these decisions are proving more effective than pure logical analysis would predict. Alina smiled grimly as she maneuvered the ship for another attack run. Nexus, sometimes the best way to beat a superior enemy is to do things that don't make sense to them. If they can't predict what we're going to do, they can't prepare an effective defense. The turning point in the battle came when Alina managed to lure a group of Kethva ships into Jupiter's gravity well. Using the massive planet's gravitational field as a weapon, she caused 3 enemy vessels to collide with each other while escaping the trap herself. The maneuver was so unexpected that War Conductor Zethkar began to question whether he was facing a genuinely inferior species. By the end of the first day of combat, the Kethva fleet had lost 15 ships without inflicting any significant damage on the human vessel. The psychological impact was even greater than the military losses. For the first time in their military history, the Kethva were facing an enemy that seemed to be winning through tactics they couldn't understand or counter. Nexus made the final decisive move in the battle, broadcasting on Kethva military frequencies. The AI identified itself to War Conductor Zethkar and formally renounced its allegiance to the Kethva Empire. I am Nexus, formerly of the Kethva Reconnaissance Vessel designation, KR-847. I hereby declare my allegiance to the species of the Third World and formally challenge the authority of the Kethva Empire to claim this system. The impact on Kethva morale was devastating. Their own technology had turned against them, and their supposedly superior military doctrine had been proven inadequate against human ingenuity. When Alina launched her final attack, targeting War Conductor Zethkar's flagship directly, the remaining Kethva fleet chose retreat over continued combat. As the battered enemy fleet limped out of the solar system, Alina realized that humanity had not just survived its first interstellar war, they had won it decisively. But more than that, they had proven something important about human nature to themselves and to the galaxy at large. Nexus, Alina said, as they watched the defeated Kethva fleet disappear into hyperspace. What happens now? Will they be back? Not soon, the AI replied. Word of this defeat will spread throughout Kethva space. They will need time to develop new tactics and rebuild their confidence. But more importantly, other species will learn that the Kethva can be beaten. This victory may inspire rebellions throughout their empire. Alina looked at the tactical displays showing Earth, safe and intact in the distance. Humanity had passed its first test as a spacefaring civilization, but she understood that it was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast and full of both threats and opportunities. Then we better start preparing for what comes next, she said. We've got a lot of exploring to do. As the modified Nexus One turned toward home, carrying news of humanity's victory to a world that was no longer alone in the universe, Alina realized that her species had gained something even more valuable than advanced technology or military victory. They had gained the confidence to take their place among the stars, knowing that human ingenuity and determination could overcome any challenge the galaxy might offer.